My girlfriend just gave birth to our first child. I know I'm not the biological father and I revealed I knew as soon as she gave birth. I'll try to keep this short because I'm planning to go to a bar soon. I found out when she was about 6 months into her pregnancy. This guy, Brian, approached me where I work. "Are you Sarah's boyfriend?" I said yeah and asked what he wanted. He said he was sorry that he had slept with her and swore he didn't know that she was with someone. Obviously, I didn't believe that. He then pulled out his phone to show the texts between them. They had been sleeping together or linking up for over a year at least. When she found out she was pregnant they came to an agreement to just pretend the baby was mine. In return, she wouldn't lose her perfect life and he wouldn't be responsible for a baby. I knew it was weird. We had been having trouble trying for a baby and then all of a sudden she got pregnant so easily. But he explained that he had been thinking about it and he recently became a Christian. He said that he couldn't live his life knowing that I was living a lie while his child didn't know who their real father was. So yeah. I told him I'd keep in touch with him, and to not say anything about our conversation just yet. I've had a lot of time to think but ultimately I decided it would be the best if I wait until she gave birth so I can hurt her in her most vulnerable moment. I'll spare the details, but she went into labor, baby was born, and was taken to the NICU to be monitored for a bit. What should have been a beautiful moment of me holding my baby, was the most heartbreaking time of my entire life. Just knowing he was not mine hurt me to my core. Once she was sewn up and comfortable I started packing up my stuff to leave. She asked where I was going and I just told her. I know I'm not his father, you can act all shocked but I know. Just ask Brian to come, I'm positive he'll sign the birth certificate. Then I left. She's been calling my phone over and over, even sending texts as I type this story and has even gotten her sister to call me a few times. It was hard pretending these last few months but I think I'm satisfied but I feel really heartbroken though. I was planning to propose to her on the day our baby was born. I was gonna make her the happiest woman ever. Oh well.
My parents revealed a 19-year-old secret to save my relationship. I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 4 years now. Everything has been going amazing and I am in love. We got emancipated after high school and now own a nice apartment on the outside of a very small town and are soon to open a car wash together. Last week we were at a family reunion where the topic of my late grandmother on my dad's side was brought up and my father pulled out some pictures of her. My mother-in-law, my boyfriend's mom, freaked out and looked super nervous when she saw pictures of my grandma. Then she left the room for a few minutes while the topic continued. She later came back with pictures of me and my boyfriend's grandmothers, both unalive right now, together. The pictures led all the way to their late teens and early 20s, right before my dad was born. Apparently, my great-grandfather had an affair where he had my boyfriend's grandmother. And since my grandma was the oldest, they were raised separately, but were still related. My grandma and her dad kept this secret from the rest of the family. At least that is why we think no one else knew. So the math started. Our grandmas were sisters. That makes my dad and his mom, my boyfriend's mom, direct cousins, and me and my boyfriend are second cousins. Obviously, me and my boyfriend started to cry. I started to have a panic attack, and my mother-in-law was still in what looked like shock. But my parents seemed super calm. Eventually my dad snapped quote, all right, we need to say something. You can all calm down. My name is not my biological daughter. They're okay to date. You're fine. I stopped crying, but only for a second. Then I continued, but this time yelling, what the F? What the F? What the F? Over and over. Still to this day, those 3 words keep repeating in my mind. Their story was that my mom and dad then broke up, then a few years later they reunited. My mom was 5 months pregnant when they decided to give it a try, with him promising her to give me his last name and care for me, which he's done a great job at. He was the one to sign my birth certificate, making me unrelated by blood to him, therefore unrelated by blood to my boyfriend. But my mom didn't want people to know that I wasn't really his, so she made him keep the secret for 19 years. This is so messed up on so many levels. Entitled Karen tries to steal my baby. Enjoy your court date on April 2nd. One afternoon after our mommy and me yoga class, me and my daughter decided to get a coffee and catch up. While I would get coffee, she would get milk. While my daughter, the lightweight that she is, passes out after that milk. I decide to be wild and get that second cup of coffee. I'm drinking my second cup of coffee when a wild entitled mom and her child appear. The mom says, a baby, so cute. I smile but go back to reading the news and sipping my coffee. When I look up, the child is trying to pick up my sleeping baby. I panicked, obviously, and yelled at her to stop right now. The mom says, oh, she wasn't hurting her. The child whines and asks for the baby and I say, she's sleeping, and you're too little to hold her, honey, she's heavy. The mom just keeps asking me to let her child hold the baby and I tell her no again. The mom says, you don't have to be a jerk. I then ask excuse me while the child tries to pick up my daughter and woke her up, which made my daughter cry. I pick her up and start hushing her. I tell her to leave us alone and the mother tries to grab my daughter and I turn away while she is still crying. The mom keeps trying to grab my baby and I fight back. At this point the coffee shop employees jump in and pull her away. One of them says that they called the police. The mom's nose is hurt and her child is sobbing. I feel bad for the kid. She's little, but her mom should teach her better. The employees ask us to stay and wait for police to arrive. The mom starts accusing me of hurting her and scaring her child. While this happened, my daughter is still crying, so I start to feed her. The mom then accuses me of exposing myself to a child and calling me the P word. I ignore her, and my daughter finally calms down. The police came and asked us each what happened. She claims I exposed myself to her daughter and hurt her. I was afraid that I was going to go to jail, so I told them that she tried to steal my baby and I was just protecting her. Luckily the coffee place had cameras. She got arrested for attempted kidnapping. I have to go to court for it next month. We go to court on April 2nd for the criminal charges against the mom for attempted kidnapping. Me and my daughter went to the park this morning. We got back around 11 a.m. There was a man standing on our porch, looking lost. My daughter was in her stroller sleeping. I put my hand in my purse and onto my mace. I asked what I could help him with and the man said he was looking for me to deliver an envelope. I tell him it's me and I take the envelope, and as soon as it is in my hands, he rips off his fake mustache and hat and reveals his identity as a legal intern. He then tells me I'm being sued. Yep, that's right, I'm being sued by the mother. Why would the woman who tried to snatch my baby be suing me? How much damage could I have inflicted? Well, apparently I did $45,000 in damage. In this poor envelope was about 50 million pages detailing how she is suing me for everything that is wrong in her life. Apparently I had broken her nose, so she's suing me for not only related medical bills, but she also wants me to pay for them to fix her pre-existing toed nose. Oh, and of course emotional damages to her and her child. Apparently the mom has anxiety and depression because of me. The kid is PTSD from the incident. Finally, I'm also being sued for slander and character assassination because how dare I say she tried to steal my baby. Sister ditched me with $450 dinner bill, so I gave the restaurant all of her information and called the police. My sister and her boyfriend recently moved to a town next to mine. I was excited as we'll be able to see more of each other now. Nearby there is a downtown center that has a lot of shopping, restaurants, galleries, etc. There is one 5-star restaurant that me, my husband and I love. A dinner for two will run you about $250 to $300, so it's not a place we can frequently go to. My sister called me last week and invited us out to dinner with them at the restaurant last night. I reminded her it was an upscale place and to take a look at the menu beforehand because they have very high pricing, and we can just go somewhere else and there's tons of other great places to choose from. She said they still wanted to go. We hadn't been there in a while, so we accepted. Dinner was phenomenal. At the end of the meal, my sister excused herself to the bathroom, and when she doesn't come back relatively soon, her boyfriend leaves the table to go find her. After a while, neither of them comes back. We go to check for them and they are gone. I call and text her and she texts me back saying that they've left but thanks for dinner. It was just as amazing as you said it would be. I asked her what she meant but no response. I texted again asking if she really just stuck us with the bill and no response. I then texted that I never agreed to pay for them and that she had 20 minutes to come back to the restaurant or I'll give the restaurant all her information and they will likely involve the police. No response. At the 20-minute mark, I called and texted and got no response. She left me with no other decision, so I stayed true to my word. I paid for mine and my husband's portion and gave all her information to the restaurant manager for their portion, then left. The next day, she called me back crying because she has been getting calls from the restaurant asking her to come pay or they will contact the police. Like, what else did you think would happen? I said I'm not surprised since she skipped out on her bill. She said she thought I was paying the tab since I've paid for our dinners in the past. I have paid for her and me only in dinners where the total tab was $60 max. I said this was obviously different than all the other times we met for dinner. This was all four of us and at an upscale restaurant that you insisted on going to. And I was not paying the $450 tab and she had to cover her portion. I reminded her that she invited us out and chose the restaurant. I specifically asked if she wanted to go somewhere else, but she is the one who insisted on going to this restaurant. She then said she thought I'd just pay, but when I asked the waiter for separate checks, she realized I wasn't and left for the bathroom to ditch me. I said that since the restaurant hadn't contacted the police yet, all you need to do is go in and pay and everything will be settled. She didn't want to do that because she would be too embarrassed, and asked me to cover it. I again said no and that she had to take care of it herself. Clearly I will not be paying for anything ever again. Our family has now gotten involved and I'm being forced to just pay the bill. So am I wrong if I don't and let the restaurant call the police on my sister? My best friend canceled our one-year-long plan because her childhood best friend told her to, so I matched her energy. My best friend and I have been planning to go to watch the Barbie movie together ever since we heard about it a year ago. 2 weeks before the premiere I excitedly texted her to let me know the exact details of when and where we were going to meet to watch the movie. Because she was in the middle of exams and I had several papers to finish up. We found a date that was perfect for the both of us and sorted the details out. Everything was going great. A few days go by and I get a text from her saying, my old friends insist that I go with them. If that's not okay with you, I'll go twice. At first, I was like, well, whatever, you can go with them after, since your commitment was made with me beforehand. But she insisted on watching the movie with them first, so I removed myself from the situation and told her to do whatever she pleased, and that I will watch the movie with someone else, because I was surely not going to go watch a movie for the first time with her when it was one she had already seen. Everything was okay. I wasn't in any mood for a fight, to be honest, and to be fair, I am used to being the second option to those who have childhood best friends. I do feel a little sad, but that kind of bond is something I will never be able to have with someone. So that's probably why I can't fathom why hanging out with her friends was much more important to her that she would cancel her plans with me. She tried to make me understand, but I just brushed it off and personally vowed to match her energy of not keeping promises and making sure she knows she is no longer my first choice either. Fast forward 2 days later, she sends a message to our mutual group chat asking if we can spare some time for her before she flies away to her home country for a month. I have already told everyone beforehand that I am not going to have any free time the rest of the month, as I have to finish up a 70-page paper for college before then. I repeated what I had planned and told her we can just hang out once she returns home. It would have been so much more convenient for everyone else in the group chat too, as they also expressed it wouldn't be the best time because everyone was either broke due to concert season or had no free time due to all of the exams. She then texted me privately to tell me how hurt she was over me not being able to spare a couple of hours for her. That was the final straw for me, so I snapped and angrily told her, I can only spare time for people who can appreciate it and that I also genuinely can't prioritize her over the paper that is going to be quite literally shaping my career. We had a heated discussion and she ended things off saying she would supposedly never put one best friend over the other, to which I replied that she already had days prior. Now she is not replying to any of my texts, and I am contemplating if this friendship is actually worth saving. I can't respect someone who thinks it's okay to cancel plans I created with her and expects me to understand her decision when she clearly does not care for my own feelings. Mother-in-law stole my kids' M&Ms, so I turned my entire family against her. My wife, 34 female, and I, 31 female, have 2 wonderful children together, 4-year-old twins. They were conceived with my wife's eggs and a known donor and I carried/birthed them. My in-laws had everyone together at their house earlier this week. My kids were outside playing with their cousins. And my sister-in-law and mother-in-law and I were having a nice chat in the kitchen. At one point, my 2 kids run inside from playing and ask if they could have some M&Ms that they see on the counter. I tell them no, we'll be eating in 20 minutes, you can have them after dinner. A little bit later, my sister-in-law and I get the call that food is ready, so we go outside and I see my kids each have a little bowl filled with M&Ms that they are eating. It is their favorite snack. I told my kids that they knew they weren't supposed to be eating those right now and I took away the bowl. My mother-in-law comes over and says that she gave them the M&Ms and that they can have them, to which I replied, no, they can't, it's dinner time. You were there when I told them no. Mother-in-law says again that they can have some chocolate, it's fine, and tries to take the bowl from out of my hands. We go back and forth, prompting my wife to start walking over to us just in time to hear her mother say in front of our kids, I'm saying it's okay, they aren't even your kids, they're my daughters, just give them the chocolate. My wife had her mom repeat herself and said something like, absolutely not, we are leaving. I put the M&Ms on the nearest table, grabbed both kids who were now softly crying and started to pack our stuff. The whole event erupted into a massive chaos. Father-in-law screaming about the disrespect of us leaving, grandmother crying, brother-in-law and his wife arguing with their father-in-law, mother-in-law crying that her only daughter is abandoning her. It's a complete mess at this point. After a couple hours at home, the kids seemed okay, but mother-in-law saying I'm not their mom really scared them. My wife spent about 6 hours on rotating phone calls with all of her family. From father-in-law screaming at her, mother-in-law crying over how we took her grandkids away over M&Ms and made her out to be the bad grandma. Brother-in-law trying to get in the drama, grandmother depressed, saying she would pass away without seeing her great-grandkids ever again. My wife's message to all of them was that mother-in-law needed to apologize to me and to our children for what she said. We made it clear that we would have no problem spending time with grandma and brother-in-law's family, but we will not bring the kids around my mother-in-law ever again until she apologized. As you can guess, the apology hasn't happened, but the phone calls of guilt trips, yelling and crying have not let up. I feel an apology is not even a big deal, and at this point mother-in-law is making the choice not to see her grandkids. I want to hold firm, but I know how hard this all is on my wife, even if I really don't think it's my fault. Am I the a**hole for insisting for an apology?